All right, so if you've completed the first level estimation, you have now the beta coefficient images, but that's not enough because you realize that the beta coefficients, there are 23 of them for YO1. What they are the effects, the regression estimates that reflect the effects of the X model for each column on the Y data. So unit change in, for example, the first X model leads to how many betas times of a change in the Y data, right? But realize that at this level, the beta coefficients reflect each unit change for the conditions for each run separately. So P11 here is for P11 of run 1, which will give you a beta for P11 of run 1. And then you get another beta for P11 of run 2, and so on and so forth. And when we want to talk about the effect of P11, we actually don't care so much. Or rather, we assume that the effect should be consistent across runs. So in other words, we really want an average estimate of the effect of P11 for run 1 and run 2, right? So in order for us to go from these beta images that separately estimate the effects of the regressors for each run, we want to combine them. And in order for us to combine them, we will use the contrast specification tool. So to apply a contrast vector, which will then be multiplied to the beta images to result in contrast images, which are then what we will use in the second level analysis. All right. So the first level analysis, the endpoint really is to generate the contrast images that estimate the effect of the condition for each subject, and then later on we will feed these subject level estimates, these contrast estimates, to the second level group analysis. So how do we do the contrast specification? Again, we go to the batch editor, we set up a new batch, and we go to the stats option, and it's right there, contrast manager. And it's asking you now to select the SPM, which contains the information of the model, the data, and now the estimated beta coefficients, the files. The actual images are obviously stored in the results folder, but the spm.mat does contain the file names and the paths and all that. So for this subject, put it in the results folder, spm.mat. And just for the sake of our sample analysis, I'm going to show you the basic contrast that you need, which essentially are a contrast for P11, P31, 32, and 33. So we're going to do 4 T contrasts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm naming the first one P11. I'm going to go ahead and name the other 3, P31, P32, and P33. Okay, now, and the weights vector, this is the contrast vector that we talked about in class. And this has to correspond with, because remember, we want to combine the run 1 and run 2 P11 response. So the weights vector is going to look like this. It's going to be 1, followed by how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 zeros. For P31, we don't want it. 3, 2, 3, 3, and a dummy. And then 6 motion covariates. And then the P11 for run 2, that one we want. And everything else after that is 0. If that's the case, we don't need to fill it in. SPM will pad it in for us later on. Okay, so we're going to get a double a vector here that will be applied to the beta images, and the result will be a contrast image that is the average effect of P11 across the two runs. Then we do the same thing, but this time for P31. For P31, it starts in the second column. So the first column is going to be a 0, followed by a 1, followed by 3, 2, 3, 3, and dummy, which we don't want, and then 6 motion covariates again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the run 2's P11, which we don't want, and run 2's P31, which we want. And then the rest are zeros, so we're going to leave it. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest. And you should be able to get how to do it yourself too. Okay, so it's essentially the same vector, but you can pad zeros in front. I could have done it faster, but I just wanted to show you how to enter it manually. So when you've done this, you've specified the contrast for this subject, Y01. This is specific to this subject because realize that this subject had an error in run 1, the dummy, but didn't have dummies in run 2. So different subjects in the sample are going to have different number of dummies. So you're going to have to take note in how you specify these vectors. And also take note that whereas now I'm specifying the vectors only for the positive case. See, all the ones are positive. If I want negative responses, we will need to put minus signs, okay? But we will talk more about that really at the second level. For the first level, actually what SPM will do is it will calculate the negative effects simultaneously as the positive effects. But when it comes to visualization, it will only visualize the positive effects. This will become more meaningful later on. So let's not worry about it. I just wanted to bring this up so that later on when we talk about it in greater detail, it would make better sense. For now, just for this contrast at the first level for Y01, these are the vectors that you will most likely absolutely need for proceeding to the subsequent second level analysis. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to specify that this is going to be the first level contrast. Okay. And then when that's done, I'm going to play it. And you'll see when it's doing its thing, it will generate the 4 contrasts here very quickly. And along with these 4 con files, which are what we really need at the second level, it will also generate the corresponding T files. Remember, a T image is basically the estimate over the variance of the estimate. That gives you the T-score. So SPM did that. When you asked it to calculate the contrast estimate, it went ahead and did contrast estimate divided by some variance information, and that would give you the T image as well. But these, at this first level, are not so important for us. What we really want are these con files for this subject. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to let you do it for the rest of the subjects. And once you have it for all of your subjects, we will then be ready for the second level group analysis.